In this video, I'm going to be doing my first ever OTF review. I've got one here from Smith & Wesson we're going to be taking a look at. Stick around. Smith & Wesson is one of many companies to send me knives for review, and I gotta say I was pretty excited to receive this because I have never purchased an OTF, I've never owned one, I've never carried one, and I'm pretty excited to have the opportunity to talk about these knives. Try to stick around to the end of this video because I am going to do an integrity test on this knife. I gotta admit, I'm pretty new to these things. I've known about them for a while, and my curiosity obviously increased after watching the John Wick film series because I'm a fan of John Wick and he obviously loves the OTF knife. I like the scene in the second John Wick movie where he goes into Rome to take care of his assignment and he goes to visit the weapons bartender before he goes and commences to wrecking everybody and everything. And he goes through all the handguns, all the ARs, the shotguns, and then he says to the bartender, "Dessert." And then the bartender goes, "Oh, dessert." And he pulls out this box and he says, "The finest cutlery, all freshly stoned." So John Wick looks at all these amazing knives, and what does he pick? He picks a OTF blade. Now he picked a double edge. This is a single edge Tanto. But one of the things we need to understand is that the average OTF knife that you're going to buy from a great majority of these companies is not the same quality of OTF that he's working with. I think you're going to have to spend about $2,500 to get the one from John Wick 2. And the one he used in John Wick 4, I want to say is even more than that, maybe even close to $4,000. But anytime a movie makes a knife popular, you can expect the price to go sky high. But those are built very solid, a lot more solid than your average OTF. So is this a good OTF for your average everyday person on an average budget looking for something solid? Let's take a look. Now I must say this gets some good reviews on the Smith & Wesson site. People are saying this is much more solid than OTFs they spent more money for. All right, so let's look at this Smith & Wesson M&P OTF knife here. Now I will tell you something a friend of mine said to me recently. He said, "Man, I really want to get an OTF knife, but I'm like worried about it ejecting in my pocket." Well, maybe you've had the same thoughts, and maybe this exists on a great majority of these knives. Again, I've never owned one, but this does have a safety feature. This one, you can lock the safety feature there and you're not going to be able to eject the knife. You can't eject it until you take the safety feature off. You do need to check your state laws about OTF knives. It wasn't until recently that we could carry these legally in Virginia. This one here has a glass breaker. I always believe that to be a nice feature to have on an everyday carry blade, especially something like this that's tactical. Now, once this is ejected here, let me eject this. Once this is ejected, you push this little notch right here, this little release button, and you can see the knife drops down, and then you just drag it down with this, and it's locked up again. If you want to carry it in your pocket without worrying about it ejecting, you just put the safety on. But if you're not worried about that, just take the safety off, and when you pull it out, it's ready to go. This does come equipped with a tip-down pocket clip. Your overall length here is 8.75. This is AUS-8 steel, which is a very decent budget steel. And another knife that comes to mind that uses the same kind of steel that's very popular is your cold steel Kobun. I now want to talk about the practical aspects of the OTF knife. And the one thing I don't want to do is put Team Fixed Blade up against Team Folding Knife or Team OTF, because everybody's got different reasons why they like to carry what they carry. And for me, I just want people carrying a blade every day. So many people don't even carry a blade. I just want people to carry a blade, and you got to find what's right for you. And just because I'm primarily a fixed blade guy doesn't mean that I'm going to discourage someone from getting an OTF. The OTF is extremely easy to carry. It slips right down in that pocket, and you can get to it and eject it pretty easily. It's connected to your pocket, pull it, eject it. Let's take a look at the play because it doesn't have a whole lot of play. It definitely feels solid. I do like this aluminum handle. I just like the setup all together, but it feels very sturdy, I must say. Got a nice sturdy weight of 6.09 ounces. As much as I love a double edge, a good single edge OTF is going to be much less regulated. Let's now talk about practical application and dangers. Well, you know that the Tanto has an incredible piercing ability. This is one of the most dangerous piercing blade designs there is out there. These are very much built for combat. That was the whole purpose for this blade design. Everything from snap cuts to piercing, this type of blade excels in. So, you know, slicing is going to be a given with this particular design. A lot of people worry about the compromise of something like this in a combative situation where stabbing and piercing is concerned with collision of bone and so forth. I would say you have little to no risk with slicing or piercing soft tissue. And it needs to be understood too that there's always a little bit of risk with the ice pick grip, even with a fixed blade, especially if there's not adequate protection for your hand going down. If there's not a hand guard, we always recommend the thumb brace. Now, something like this malfunctioning is going to look a whole lot different than the malfunction of a folding blade. You at least don't have to worry about this collapsing on your hand this way. Let's go into a fairly hard target with this thing. On the hardest part. Malfunctioned. Malfunctioned. Instead of staying locked, it did this. So it did not survive hitting a hard surface. All right, friends, we got to talk. What we had was a fair and square test on the functionability of a OTF knife, this one in particular, when colliding with something hard, and bones are hard. By the third jab into a wooden target that is not as hard as a bone, the blade collapsed. Now, the greatest implication was that the slide just slipped down my hand. It didn't bite down on my hand. It didn't crush my hand. I just had to feel the discomfort of the slide here quickly going down my hand. I have to say this again, this validates why I am a fixed blade guy for self-defense. I will review knives that are sent to me, whether they're an OTF like this or whether they are a folding knife, but I will always provide the viewer an honest assessment with the risk that they're going to be taking by choosing to use that for self-defense. Blades like pocket knives and OTF knives, they don't have the same quick access, number one, as certain fixed blades that can be mounted to you horizontally or appendix carry, however you do it. Number one, they're slower that way, but number two, they're more volatile in combat. If you like this OTF and you go with it, you're going to be limited to slashing. I would not put it to the test in stabbing. It is what it is, my friends, and you're always going to get the real deal here on 411 Outdoors. What's your thoughts on OTF knives? Do you carry one? Which one do you carry? Did you spend a lot of money on it? Hopefully you did, because from what I gather, you're going to need to spend a lot of money on something like this. I had my doubts, and I still do. So I'd love to hear from you. Take care.